Hello, welcome back to my world of stuff. Very happy Easter to you all. It's Good Friday as I'm recording this. It's about 3 o'clock-ish, I think. I thought I would do one of my physical media updates, an Easter physical media update. These, as regular viewers will know, are the videos that I put out every couple of weeks when I've got a few new bits and pieces that I've picked up, Blu-Rays, DVDs, books, comics, collectibles, whatever it is. And I've got a few bits for this particular video. I've got a number of physical media entries in terms of DVD, Blu-ray type things. It's a very much a steelbook slant to some of these. And I don't buy a lot of steelbooks. I don't go out of my way to get steelbooks, but sometimes they come my way, various reasons. And there's something quite handsome about a Blu-ray steelbook. So there's a few of those to mention. A few other bits and pieces. Some books as well. No collectibles, no figures and things, but we have some books. For Whom the Bell Tolls. It tolls for you, watching my physical media collection. All right, let's do the books first of all, I think. Get them out of the way. Keep you physical media hounds hanging a bit. A bit of an explanation to some of these books. I've had actually for a few weeks now, a friend of mine, conscious that a lot of YouTube people don't give the names of people who send them things or give them things or friends and so on, which is probably very sensible. So I shall mention Terry C, who very kindly contacted me a few weeks ago to say the number of old books and DVDs and so on had come into his possession. He was quite keen to get rid of them. And I popped along to his house. Very pleasant afternoon chatting to Terry C. We had a coffee and a caught up on all things science fiction. And I looked through this collection of books and old annuals and things that he had, and selected a few which I wanted to add to my collection. So I shall show you those. They're sort of vintagey books. The first one is this Captain Scarlet annual. This is a big chunky format annual from, I'm thinking 1968, because that's when Captain Scarlet was first around. Trying to see if there's copyright year on it. And I would imagine this is the Captain Scarlet annual for 1967, so that would be for 1968. I had this book as a kid. I was a big fan of the Jerry Anderson shows, as I'm sure I've mentioned in the past on these videos. Big fan of Thunderbird, UFO. Captain Scarlet, watching it today is quite dour and quite sort of po-faced, but it's still good fun. It's still a big spectacular show. As I say, I remember having this annual. Stuff like this just brings back incredible memories of the 60s and waking up on Christmas morning. I was a big fan of annuals, and I would always have 10 or 12 of these sorts of books. And of course, back then we had all these things based on TV shows, Doctor Who, Star Trek, Land of the Giants, Jerry Anderson things. Compare them to the annuals that kids get today, the little wafer thin 70-page things, which are over and done within 10 minutes. But these books really made with some thought. I mean, full of really well put together comic strip stories. There's a lot of noise today, considering it's Bank Holiday Friday. You'd think people would be quiet. Articles, fiction. You know, this is a book that could take you a few hours to read. Some lovely comic strip stuff in here. And I'm looking forward to reading this again, because I read this back in the day. I haven't seen it for years, got rid of my copy ages ago. And this one's obviously a bit battered, but, you know, it's 50 years old. What do you expect? So I'm pleased to get this Captain Scarlet annual. Thank you very much to Terry for that one. On a similar tip, Jerry Anderson's Joe 90 annual. I don't know if it was his own personal copy. Yeah, this would have been... Now, Joe 90 came after Captain Scarlet. So this is dated 1968. So this would be for 1969. Similar sort of format, actually. Quite a big format book. Lots of annuals are, as you'll see, were a bit smaller format than this. But again, big chunky book. Joe 90 was never a favourite Jerry Anderson show. This is where Jerry Anderson's creative powers weren't quite what they were, because this was a slightly more simplistic series. Again, though, this is a book which I did have. Again, great comic strip of the old comic strip, the old artwork of these great old comic strips from the 60s. You don't get comic strips like that anymore. A lot of comic strips in this, actually fiction. Joe 90, in case you don't know, is the story of a young lad, 8-year-old boy or 9-year-old boy, whose brain waves are wiped and replaced with brain waves of other people, so we can go on extraordinary espionage adventures. How inappropriate Not the sort of thing you get away with today, of course. Kids wouldn't be allowed to be subjected to... I mean, if you watch the episodes now, he's killing people, he's running around with guns and things. It's very much of its time. So yeah, Joe 19, not a favourite of mine, because I liked all the gizmos and gadgets of Thunderbirds and Captain Scarlet and Stingray and so on. This is much more low-key. But nice to have the annual in the collection. These two I picked up because, again, they're sort of their time. I'm just looking at the dates when these came out. This would be... this is 1957, the Lone Ranger annual. Again, cowboys and Indians very much out of fashion and out of not politically correct these days. And this is one which will sit in my collection as a period piece. Again, comic strips, text stories. The books back in these days had a real sort of sense of, entertaining kids and getting them to read. Which is something that I feel has been lost a little bit. I mean, they're just so evocative of the period that they were made. Yeah, this is really that old. 1955, and then 59ish. Yeah, based on the famous television series. So that's in good condition. Really, it's pretty solid. So that's a nice one to have. And similarly, this one goes back, I assume, even further. And these books, certainly these. Certainly World Distributors. If you're an age and you used to have annuals back in the day, you'd remember World Distributors on the spine of lots of annuals. This one goes back to 50. This is about 58 as well, actually. Again, it's World Distributors, very much in the format very similar to the early Doctor Who annuals. This is the Gunsmoke annual, based again on a long-running American Western TV series starring James Arness. Of course, Westerns drift out of fashion. Really, you get one that comes through every now and again, but this is very much in the style, as you can see, a sort of the cowboys and Indians thing that's frowned upon these days. But again, it's full of comic strips, really nice art, nice features, a nice little period piece. I'm not a huge fan of Gunsmoke or Westerns in particular, but it's a nice, solid example of that sort of thing. Speaking of Gerry Anderson, the final one from Terry C. Really pleased to get this because it's hard to get hold of now, and I've been sort of looking out for it for a while. 21st Century Visions. This is another Gerry Anderson related book. This is written by Derek Meddings, who's no longer with us, sadly, the great special effects supremo who did so much great work on Gerry Anderson shows in the 60s into the 70s. Then he went on to feature films, James Bond and Thunderbirds and so on. This is a book where he just talks about the secrets of his work on Gerry Anderson shows. Loads of lovely colour photographs, behind the scenes stuff that's wasn't seen until this book came out, and of course a nice little section on my personal favourite, a UFO. Lots of text as well, so I think that's going to be an engrossing little read. Very pleased to get this. It says out of print now. It came out, it was published 1993. So, that's going to be a nice read and nice one for the collection. Final book, before we move on to the physical media stuff. Oh, no, it's two more books, actually. We'll do this one first. This is a paperback which arrived yesterday. I got this from Amazon. Second hand, but it's in very good condition. There's a new series on Amazon Prime, which I'm going to recommend to you now. So this is not just a physical media update. It's a TV recommendation. Series called The Power, which debuted on Amazon last Friday with 3 episodes. There's 1 episode up today, which I'm looking forward to watching later. This is based on this book by Naomi Haldeman, which came out in about 2015. All over the world, women are discovering they have the power, the flick of the fingers. They can inflict terrible pain, even death. Suddenly, every man on the planet finds they've lost control. The day of the girls has arrived, but where will it end? The book makes it sound like one of those slightly ranty feminist anti-men are all bastards type things that we get a lot of these days. TV series isn't like that from what I've seen so far. The TV series is a more measured look at the world being turned upside down by half the population suddenly getting extraordinary abilities. There may well be the sort of men having the tables turned on them type thing, which, I'm not going to go into that sort of thing, but that can get a little bit wearing. But the series is very good, and I'm very intrigued to see the original book. So I picked this up for, I think it was $4.25 on Amazon Prime. This was via a sort of, as I said, it was a used copy, but it's in pristine condition. So I shall be reading that shortly. this is a book which I'm very pleased to have got. This came out a few years ago and I was very keen on getting it, but it is about 35-40 quid if you pick it up new, and I just stumbled across it on eBay for 15 quid plus postage, so it was about 18 quid, and it's a very heavy one. It's The Making of Planet of the Apes. As you can see, it's a very big, thick, heavy book. Incredibly illustrated. It's very hard to show things on these videos. But this is a terrific book that looks at every aspect of the original Planet of the Apes, not the whole series, because that would be a very big book. This just goes through the origins of the book itself, Monkey Planet by Pierre Boulle, and the story of how it became the iconic science fiction film from 1967. As you can see, a really big, chunky tome, and quite timely because the new Planet of the Apes film, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, is currently in post-production and is out next year. So I'm very pleased to have got that for a decent price. And it's one of those books I'll probably be reading over the summer, because it's not a book you just sit and flick through. I think it's a book you want to sort of digest properly, and it's such a big book. It's going to be a tabletop book. So yeah, very pleased to get The Making of the Planet of the Apes by J.W. Rinsler. So it came out a few years ago and it's still available, but it's pretty expensive. So I'm very pleased to pick that up. Pretty much half price on good old eBay. Right, on to the stuff you're really interested in. Yeah, we're talking we're talking the DVDs and Blu-rays stuff. And in fact, it's all Blu-rays and 4Ks. So as I mentioned, there's a bit of a steelbook theme to this particular set of pickups. Two of these were actually sent to me by my good friend Sean A. I've mentioned him before. He's been going through his physical media collection and downsizing a little bit. Very kindly has sent me a couple of steelbooks. And I'm pleased to have them both. I think this one is sort of controversial because people either love it or detest it. It's the original Avatar, James Cameron's Avatar on steelbook. I know Sean tried to watch this again, or he watched it again, decided he didn't need it in his life and passed it on to me, and I'm happy to take it off his hands. There it is. It's very nice steelbook edition with the 2 discs, with sort of art, but I'll take the 2 discs out because there's art in the background of the 2 discs. Yeah, I do quite like a steelbook. I'm not obsessed with getting them, and I don't want to spend 30 quid on them, but if I can see them reasonably priced. I was in my local CEX today, more on that later, and there were a lot of steelbooks there, and I was very tempted to pick some of them up because they were reasonably priced, but I'll go back to that in a moment. So that's Avatar. Thank you to Sean for that one. Thank you also to Sean for this one. He sent me this. He asked me if I had this on steelbook, and then I said I didn't. And then it suddenly arrived in the post. It is one of my favourite films of all time. It's Shaun of the Dead, starring Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, Bill Nighy, Penelope Wilton. I mean, it's just one of my favourite films. This is one of my entry films for zombies, really. I went to see this before I'd even seen the Romero films and all the classic zombie films. I sort of saw this first, really, back in 2000 or 2002 when it came out, 2000, yeah. Anyway, there it is on steelbook. It's a lovely edition. As you can see, it's got sort of raised lettering there on the side. I mean, the J cards aren't there, but who cares? They either get stuck in the tins or thrown away normally. It's the steelbook you want. Very pleased to have that as a favourite film, so thank you again to Sean for sending me these 2. So then, on a bit of a steelbook vibe, as I mentioned, I popped to my local CEX this morning. Still had a voucher burning in my pocket. As you will see, I've spent some of that voucher recently, but that's to come. Today, though, I picked up 2 more steelbooks. I was a bit torn between this one and Avengers Assemble, but this one's a bit more attractive as a product. It's The Amazing Spider-Man. This is the Andrew Garfield version of Spider-Man. Of course, ran to Amazing Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man 2. Neither of them are particularly accomplished films, certainly not in the same league as the Tobey Maguire films we get these days. But I wasn't sure if I had this, and I sort of remember picking up the second one and not the first one. As it turns out, I have got the first one, but not this very nice little steelbook. As you can see, it's a lovely image of Spider-Man scaling the side of a skyscraper. It opens up into a very nice view of Spidey. The 2 discs in there again. Disc 2 is the special features. Disc 1, the film itself. It's not a film I've revisited very much. Probably will be tempted. I mean, big Spider-Man fan. I do like Spidey. He's one of my go-to superheroes. So I'll probably rewatch it at some point. But Tom Holland. I might have said Toby Holland earlier on. I don't know. But it's Tom Holland, of course. He's so perfect as the current Spider-Man. And you sort of don't really want to go back and see the others. Even though, of course, they all came together in the last film. I also picked up this for about £3, I think this was. This is the first of the rebooted Star Trek films from J.J. Abrams, starring Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto. Again, I've got this on Blu-ray already. But again, it's a nice disc. I do like the cover there. This is just one disc inside. And there is interior, quite a nice interior illustration of the Enterprise hurtling through space, and a little advert for a Star Trek video game. I think this was £3. I say it's in good condition, he said, rubbing it down. So that's Star Trek on quite a nice little steel book. Yeah, I'm quite impressed by the number of discs they had in CEX today, and I may well go back and pick some of them up because they're like £3. And that's not bad for a steelbook, even if you've already got the disc. I just think the steelbook editions are quite nice. Right, other bits, a few other bits to go. I picked this up from Amazon. I think this was about £6 something last weekend, just idly looking through, and I thought I'd pick this up. It's Toy Story 4 on 4K. I do like this Toy Story films. It's funny, I'm not a massive fan of animation. I sort of don't have the patience for it these days. But I do like the Toy Story films. They're sort of it's where it all began, really, for computer animation. I still remember the sort of sensation of the first film when it came out, Toy Story. The computer animated cartoon, this is crazy. But of course, they're 10 a penny now. But this is the fourth one, which came out, 3 years ago? And still stands up very well. It's a worthy addition to the series. I know that the Toy Story trilogy is so well regarded and so well respected and so good. Everybody was very, very worried about a fourth entry to the series. But I think this stands up very well and is a good fourth part. And I hear a rumour that there's a fifth part being prepared or whatever, so I'm not sure if that's a good idea, but there we are. I picked this one up last week from the sale on Network, of course, who do classic film and television, and they were doing, over the last 4 or 5 weeks, they've been doing different promotions across the weekends, box sets 50% off, various editions 30% off and so on. I picked up this one, which I've only seen once. I'm looking forward to seeing it again. I think it goes back to 1978, Capricorn 1. This is the story of the world watching the first manned flight to Mars, but is it real or is it a conspiracy? This is one of the films that stoked the lunatic conspiracy theorists who don't believe we ever went to the moon. I don't know why you wouldn't believe something like that. I'm firmly of the opinion that man getting to the moon is one of humanity's greatest achievements. And to deny that or to think it didn't happen, I just don't see the logic of it. But some people don't believe it, but there you go. This is a nice slim disc edition, as you can see. It's got special features, trailer, making of Capricorn 1, on set with Capricorn 1, sort of contemporary historical features rather than anything new. But it'd be nice to have it on Blu-ray. Picked this one up from the sale on Thinking Zavvi, another science fiction favourite of mine. In fact, I think I did a retro video a year or so back, so you'll find it somewhere back on the channel. It's Silent Running, starring Bruce Dern, directed by Douglas Trumbull. A legendary, stately science fiction film. It's not a big action-adventure sci-fi film, but it's very stately is just the word. It's a majestic sort of film. And it's a nice edition. There's several editions available. This, again, is a steelbook, and a nice, sturdy box. And there it is. There's another bigger edition, I think, with all sorts of bits and bobs with it. But this is rather nice. As you see, it's got the 2 discs. It's got a series of postcards, stills from the film. Just a nice, really well-presented edition of, as I said, a favourite film. That's the steelbook itself. You also get, for your sins, a book about the making of the film with lots of lovely photographs and text. Smells good. So it's a nice little book, and you also get a poster, the film's poster. two different posters. In fact, you get that poster and you get that one, which is the poster that I'm more familiar with. That's Silent Running, which was on 4K. I think it was reduced to, I think it was about $24.99. There's various different versions of it. And this was one I was sort of interested in when it came out last year, and I've not exactly been keeping an eye on it, but when it turned up, it was like, oh, that's the one for me. Two more to go. You'll be glad to hear we're nearly done. These are both pickups from CEX last weekend when I popped down, and again I was just using my voucher, just picking up bits I thought might be fun to have. I picked up the special edition of Broadchurch Series 1, starring David Tennant and Olivia Colman. Of course, this is the series from 2013 that was a bit of a phenomenon at the time. It was followed by two not quite as good series, but the first season is still a classic piece of sort of British crime drama. I'm not a massive fan of British crime dramas. I just tend to find them all a bit samey. But Broadchurch is a good show. The reason I bought this, slightly egotistical, I did a day's work as an extra on this. And as you know, I do quite a lot of that sort of work. A lot of times you do that sort of stuff, you don't see yourself. But I am plainly visible in episode 4 in a few scenes. If you're tempted to watch it, it's episode 4 where David Tennant's Alec Hardy is giving a sort of briefing to the people in the village about the progress of the investigation about the murder of Danny Latimer. And all the main cast are there, and it was all filmed in, if I remember, it was filmed in Clevedon, in a sort of a school hall that was transformed into like a village hall. And there's a couple of quite clear shots of me sitting in the audience looking quite concerned, wearing a sort of a green and yellow sort of shirt. And then scenes later on when everybody's leaving the hall, there's a couple of scenes of me walking past outside. So I just bought this because it's a good series. It was £1.50 and a minute. So there we are. Final pickup is not the most distinguished one to end the video with, but there we are. Just to make up the numbers, I picked up a film called The Apparition, a horror film from 2012, I believe. It's 82 minutes long. Stars Sebastian Stan and Ashley Greene and Tom Felton from the Harry Potter films. Pretty good pedigree, you'd think. When I got it home, I realised, and I looked it up, and I saw that it is regarded as one of the worst films of the year it came out in. Totally, I mean, the blurb on the back says squirm, squeal and screaming-inducing scares. Most of the reviews that I saw said it was tacked with no redeeming features and no scares at all. But there we are, it was £2 and it just made up the numbers. It's The Apparition. I may well talk about that again at some time. But then again, I may not. Right, thank you for watching this slightly long video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have enjoyed it, why not leave a comment or subscribe. Leave a comment and a like and give a thumbs up. And that's my Easter physical media update. I hope you have a good Easter. Easy on the eggs. And I'll see you soon with some more reviews. There's a couple of things coming. I am planning to see The Pope's Exorcist, which is a film, incidentally, which has just been released. I'll be seeing that sometime over the weekend. And next week, it was supposed to be this last week, but next week I'm going to pop down for one of the last few days of the BBC's 100-year exhibition in the museum in Cardiff, so I'm planning to record some footage there. So there's stuff coming up in the next week or so, so keep the faith. See you soon. Until I do, keep taking the stuff.